Supreme Chancellor Vorth found himself sitting in what had once been his own ceremonial chamber, aboard the human flagship Indomitable. But everything had changed in ways that hurt his compound eyes to perceive the walls that had once displayed. The glory of Council civilization now showed holographic star maps marking human territories that stretched across previously forbidden regions of space. Admiral Kyung-soo sat across from him at a conference table that seemed to be made from crystallized starlight itself. The material shifted colors as they spoke, creating patterns that somehow translated emotional undertones into visible light. Captain Soo-jin recorded everything for broadcast across known space, ensuring that every sentient being in the galaxy would witness this historic moment. The 72-hour ultimatum has expired, Admiral Kyung-soo stated with the calm certainty of someone who held absolute power. However, humanity is prepared to discuss terms for a new galactic arrangement that benefits all species willing to embrace peaceful coexistence. The alien representatives who had once commanded respect and fear throughout the galaxy now sat like prisoners awaiting judgment. Their earlier arrogance had been replaced by barely controlled terror as they realized the full scope of their miscalculation. President Yoon-hee appeared via quantum-entangled hologram, her presence filling the chamber with authority that transcended physical space. First, she announced all territorial restrictions on human expansion are permanently dissolved. Human colonies may be established on any world that supports life, regardless of previous Council claims. Second, the Council will provide complete technological databases and scientific research on equal terms with no restrictions or limitations. Third, any species maintaining hostile intentions toward the Terran Empire will discover exactly how creative humans can become when properly motivated. Dr. Min Jung stepped forward carrying a small device that looked deceptively simple but contained technology that could reshape reality itself. She activated the mechanism, and Supreme Chancellor Vorth massive dreadnought visible through the chamber. Transparent walls simply vanished from existence, leaving empty space where moments before a vessel the size of a small moon had floated. Temporal displacement, she explained with the casual tone of someone discussing the weather. We have moved your flagship 30 minutes into the future, where it will remain until we decide to retrieve it. This demonstrates what we can do to individual vessels with handheld equipment. Imagine what we might accomplish with planetary installations when dealing with entire star systems. The alien representatives finally understood that they were not negotiating with fellow galactic powers, but with beings who had transcended the normal limitations of space and time. The humans possessed technology that treated the fundamental laws of physics as optional guidelines rather than absolute restrictions. Ambassador Jin Ho, who had maintained perfect diplomatic composure during the original ultimatum, now smiled with the satisfaction of someone whose patience had been rewarded. The Council operated under the assumption that humanity was young and primitive, he said. This assessment was partially accurate. We are indeed young compared to your ancient civilizations. However, he continued, his voice carrying undertones that made several aliens shift. Uncomfortably in their floating chairs, we possess something your species lost long ago. The ability to learn quickly, adapt rapidly, and innovate beyond existing limitations. You became comfortable with your superiority while we remained hungry for improvement, Captain. Na Young stepped forward with data tablets that contained detailed analyses of every alien technology encountered during the recent conflicts. Our scientists have been studying your equipment for 40 years, she announced. Not just copying it, but understanding it so completely that we can improve upon it in ways you never imagined. The evidence was overwhelming. Human researchers had taken every piece of Council technology they could acquire through trade theft or battlefield salvage. They had reverse engineered it, analyzed it, and rebuilt it better. Every supposedly advanced alien system had been surpassed by human innovation, driven by curiosity and determination. How, whispered Supreme Chancellor Vorth, his compound eyes reflecting the fear of a predator who had suddenly discovered he was prey. How did you achieve such advancement in such a brief period? Your species barely reached space travel a few centuries ago. Captain Young-ho answered with pride that echoed through the chamber, because we approach problems differently than your ancient civilizations. You see obstacles and accept limitations. We see challenges and create solutions. You rely on established science. We rewrite the laws of nature when they prove inconvenient. The truth was that humanity had been preparing for this confrontation since their first contact with galactic civilization. Every diplomatic exchange had been an intelligence-gathering operation. Every trade agreement had included hidden clauses allowing humans to study alien technology. Every cultural exchange had been an opportunity to identify weaknesses in alien thinking. General Wu Sung appeared via hologram from Luna Base, where massive construction projects were already underway. Human expansion into previously forbidden territories would begin immediately with colonies planned for thousands of worlds across the galaxy. The infrastructure was ready, the ships were prepared, and the colonists were eager to build new civilizations among distant stars. Dr. Haye Jin monitored communications from across the galaxy as news of humanity victory spread through every known species. The message was clear and unmistakable. The Council Age of Dominance had ended, replaced by something far more dynamic and unpredictable. Human potential unleashed upon the cosmos as the alien representatives signed documents that formally transferred galactic authority to human leadership. Lieutenant Ho Young transmitted the proceedings. Across all communication networks, every civilization would learn that challenging humanity was not just inadvisable, but completely impossible. The new accords established humanity as the dominant power in galactic affairs, but with an important difference. Unlike the Council, which had ruled through fear and suppression, humans offered partnership to species willing to embrace progress. The galaxy would become a place of innovation and exploration rather than stagnation and control. President Chun He outlined the new reality with words that would be remembered for millennia. "The universe is vast enough for all of us to prosper," she declared. "But it has no room for those who would limit others through threats and ultimatums humanity offers. Friendship to peaceful species and overwhelming force to any who choose hostility." Captain Dong Min commanded the first wave of human exploration vessels as they departed for previously forbidden regions of space. Behind them came colony ships filled with families ready to build new worlds, research vessels equipped to unlock cosmic mysteries, and construction fleets prepared to establish infrastructure across hundreds of star systems. The expansion would be rapid, but careful, with human settlements designed to coexist with existing ecosystems rather than destroy them. The goal was not conquest but growth, guided by principles that valued both progress and preservation. Dr. So Ara coordinated the massive undertaking from her command center, ensuring that every human vessel received the support and resources needed for success. The quantum communication network allowed perfect coordination across impossible distances, making it possible to manage operations spanning thousands of light years. Admiral Sung Ho stood on his flagship bridge watching as human ships departed for destinations that had been forbidden just hours earlier. The galaxy stretched before them, filled with infinite possibilities and untold wonders waiting to be discovered. The ultimatum had achieved the exact opposite of its intended purpose. Instead of forcing humanity into submission, it had triggered their transformation from a minor galactic power to the dominant force in known space. The Council attempt to put humans in their place had instead revealed that humanity's place was wherever they chose to make it. As the last alien vessel departed Sol System, carrying news of the new galactic order, Admiral Kyung-soo smiled with satisfaction. The greatest adventure in human history was just beginning. Commander Jin A led her small fleet through the Vega system, knowing that Council forces were watching her every move. Her ships looked exactly like what they were supposed to be: simple mining vessels converted for deep space exploration. The hulls showed wear from years of honest work, the engines appeared basic and outdated, and the weapon system seemed barely adequate for defending against pirates. The Council patrol that intercepted them consisted of 3 heavy cruisers commanded by a reptilian officer named Commander Sask, who had been chosen for this mission because of his experience destroying primitive civilizations. His ships gleamed with advanced armor that could withstand direct hits from stellar weapons. Their energy shields could deflect attacks that would vaporize entire moons. Attention, human vessels. Sask broadcast across all frequencies, his voice dripping with contempt. You are ordered to surrender immediately for inspection and probable destruction. Your Pathetic species has defied the will of the Council and must face the consequences. Ginny stood on the bridge of her flagship New Incheon, surrounded by crew members who looked like ordinary miners and engineers, but were actually some of the most highly trained military specialists in human space. Her sensor operator, Bo Ra, monitored alien movements while her weapons officer, Tae Young, prepared systems that the enemy could not detect. "We are simple miners," Commander Jin A replied, keeping her voice calm and respectful. "We carry no weapons beyond basic defensive systems and pose no threat to your superior vessels." Perhaps there has been some misunderstanding. Sask laughed at what he thought was typical human cowardice. His species had conquered dozens of primitive civilizations, and the pattern was always the same. The inferior races would beg and plead and promise to surrender before being destroyed anyway. It was one of the few pleasures in his military career. "There is no misunderstanding, mammal," he snarled. "Your species defied the Council ultimatum, and now you will serve as an example to others who might consider similar foolishness." "Prepare to be destroyed," Ginny looked at her crew and nodded once. The signal traveled through quantum channels to every human vessel in the system, activating technology that had been hidden in plain sight for decades. What the aliens thought were simple mining tools suddenly revealed their true nature as the most advanced weapon systems in the galaxy. The mining equipment transformed into energy platforms that pulsed with power signatures unlike anything in Council databases. Cargo containers unfolded into shield generators that created defensive barriers in dimensions the reptilian commander did not know existed. Communication arrays became targeting systems that could track objects moving faster than light across multiple parallel universes. "This is Commander Jin A.E. of the Terran defense platform, New Incheon," she announced as her ships shed their disguises like snakes shedding old skin. "You have 30 seconds to withdraw from human territory before we demonstrate why our species does not negotiate with bullies." Sask ordered his ships to open fire immediately, unleashing enough firepower to sterilize an entire planet. The energy beams struck Jin's shields and simply stopped hanging motionless in space, as if time itself had been frozen. The alien weapons remained suspended there for several seconds before reversing direction and striking the Council vessels with twice their original power. "Impossible," Sask screamed as his flagship shuddered under the impact of its own weapons. "How can primitive mining equipment deflect our most advanced military technology? You have been studying the wrong textbooks," Janaea replied as her vessels began their counterattack. "We learned physics from teachers who understood that reality has more dimensions than your scientists ever imagined." Meanwhile, in the Tau Ceti system, Captain Dong Min was conducting what appeared to be routine patrol duties when a Council battle group consisting of 12 heavy warships dropped out of hyperspace. The alien commander, a crystalline being named Admiral Korath, had brought enough firepower to destroy a dozen human colonies. The aliens expected to find a small patrol vessel that would either run away in terror or be destroyed in the first exchange of fire. Instead, they discovered an enemy that seemed to exist in multiple places simultaneously. Dongmin ships phased in and out of normal spacetime, appearing behind enemy formations, delivering devastating strikes before vanishing again. Admiral Korath watched in horror as his vessels tried to target enemies that moved through dimensions. His people had only theorized about human ships emerged from spatial folds directly inside his formation, fired weapons that operated according to unknown principles, then disappeared before his gunners could even lock onto them. "Your technology violates every known law of physics," Korath transmitted to the human vessels. "This level of dimensional manipulation should be impossible for any species to achieve." "Then your laws need updating," Dongmin replied as his flagship materialized directly beneath the alien command ship. "We have been improving on your impossible for 40 years, back on Earth." Dr. Hai Jin monitored these engagements from the Strategic Command Center, hidden deep beneath the Antarctic ice sheet. Her quantum entanglement communication network allowed perfect coordination across impossible distances, something the Council had dismissed as theoretically impossible for primitive minds to comprehend. "All units report successful engagement," she announced to the command. "Staff enemy forces are experiencing what they classify as reality violations. They are requesting emergency reinforcements from their core worlds and demanding explanations for phenomena their science cannot account for." The truth was becoming clear to alien commanders across the galaxy. They were not fighting a primitive species that had stumbled into space travel through luck. They were facing an enemy that had taken everything the galaxy had to offer, learned from it, and improved upon it, in ways the original creators never thought possible. Captain Su-ho demonstrated this perfectly when his exploration vessel encountered a Council science ship near the edge of known space. The aliens scanned his vessel with equipment they considered the most advanced in the galaxy and detected only crude human technology, exactly what they expected to find. When they attempted to board his ship for a detailed inspection, they found themselves trapped in spatial loops that deposited them back at their starting point, no matter which direction they moved. The alien boarding parties spent hours walking through corridors that led nowhere, climbing stairs that went down, while going up and opening doors that revealed the same room they had just left. Your scanners see what we want them to see. Su-ho explained to the increasingly frustrated aliens. Your advanced sensors cannot detect technology that operates in dimensions you do not know exist. We have been studying your equipment for 40 years. Did you really think we would not learn to hide from it? Dr. Min-jung had spent 2 decades reverse engineering alien technology in her secret laboratories on Mars, but she had not simply copied what she found. Instead, she had understood it so completely that she could improve upon it in ways that made the original creators look like children, playing with toys. Every piece of Council equipment that humans had purchased, traded for, or captured had been taken apart, studied, and rebuilt better. Her quantum weapons could punch through any known defense. Her dimensional drives could move ships through spaces that alien science said were empty. Her consciousness-linked technology could connect human minds across vast distances, creating coordination networks that made human fleets fight as a single organism. The Council forces were discovering that they were not just fighting an enemy with superior technology, they were fighting an enemy that understood their own technology better than they did. Every alien weapon system had weaknesses that humans had cataloged and learned to exploit. Every defensive measure had flaws that human creativity had turned into vulnerabilities. The war was already over. The Council just did not know it yet. Admiral Kyung-soo stood on the bridge of his flagship Seoul Thunder, watching the stars through the massive viewport that stretched across the front wall. The ship looked like any other human vessel from the outside, with simple metal plating and basic engine designs, but appearances could be very deceiving. His crew worked quietly at stations that seemed ordinary, but contained technology that would make alien scientists weep with envy. The message from Ambassador Jin-ho arrived through quantum channels that moved faster than light itself, carrying encryption that no alien computer could break. Captain Na-young, his second-in-command, read the transmission aloud to the bridge crew, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what they were about to unleash. Council ultimatum received. She announced Operation Dragon Wake is authorized. All units are to implement Protocol 7 immediately. Kyung-soo nodded once and touched a control panel that looked like simple plastic but was actually made from materials that existed in multiple dimensions at the same time. The signal went out instantly, reaching every human ship station and colony across hundreds of light-years of space. On Luna Base, General Wu Sung received the activation code, while standing in what appeared to be a simple command center buried deep inside the moon. The walls looked like ordinary metal, but they were actually composed of quantum smart materials that could reshape themselves into any configuration needed. Behind him, technicians worked at consoles that seemed basic, but controlled weapon systems hidden throughout the solar system. The general touched his authorization key, and the entire moon began to change. Deep beneath the surface, massive chambers opened, revealing defensive platforms that had been built over 40 years using alien technology that humans had reverse engineered and improved beyond recognition. Energy collectors that could absorb the power of stars came online. Shield generators that could protect entire planets, activated defense networks that could track and destroy thousands of targets, simultaneously began their startup sequences on Mars. Dr. Min-jung stood in her laboratory surrounded by projects that the Galaxy Council thought were impossible. Her team had spent decades taking apart every piece of alien technology they could acquire through trade theft or battlefield salvage. They had learned how each component worked, then figured out how to make it work better. She activated communication systems that connected her directly to research facilities hidden across human space. The quantum entanglement network allowed instant communication across any distance, making it possible to coordinate activities that should have taken years to plan. Phase 1 is complete, she announced to her fellow scientists. All stealth modifications are online. All weapon upgrades are functional. All dimensional drive systems are ready for deployment. Her words traveled to secret bases, built inside asteroids, to research stations hidden in gas giant atmospheres, to manufacturing facilities constructed in the empty space between stars. Everywhere humans had gone, they had been preparing for this moment, building weapons that alien, science said, were impossible, creating defenses that broke every known law of physics. President Yoon-hee sat in the Emergency Command Center deep beneath the surface of Earth, surrounded by the greatest military and scientific minds humanity had ever produced. The room looked simple, with basic furniture and standard wall displays, but the technology hidden within those walls could coordinate the activities of billions of people across hundreds of star systems. Fleet Admiral Tae-ho stood at attention near a holographic display that showed the positions of every human ship in space. Most of them appeared to be simple cargo vessels, mining platforms, or exploration craft, but each one contained surprises that would shock the alien species that thought they understood human capabilities. Intelligence Chief Yu-ri monitored communications from across the galaxy, listening to alien military frequencies and tracking the movement of council fleets. Her equipment could intercept and decode transmissions that alien governments thought were completely secure. The Council believes we are still the same primitive species that barely managed to reach our own moon a few centuries ago. President Yoon-hee said, her voice carrying the weight of billions of lives. They have made the most serious error in military history. They have given us time to prepare. The truth was that humanity had been getting ready for this war since the day they first encountered alien civilization. Every trade agreement had included clauses that allowed humans to study alien technology. Every diplomatic exchange had been an opportunity to learn how alien minds worked. Every cultural program had been a chance to identify weaknesses in alien society. Captain Young-ho commanded what looked like a simple patrol vessel near the edge of human space. His ship, the Gwangju, appeared to be nothing more than a converted cargo hauler with basic weapons and minimal shielding. But when Council scouts arrived to test human defenses, they discovered that appearances meant nothing when dealing with humans. The alien ships approached with casual confidence, expecting to find frightened primitives running away from superior technology. Instead, they found Young-ho waiting for them in space that seemed empty, but was actually filled with invisible traps. "This is Captain Young-ho of the Terran Defense Force." He transmitted to the alien scouts. "You have entered human territory without permission. Please explain your presence or prepare to face the consequences." The alien commander, a reptilian creature named Sask, laughed at what he thought was a pathetic bluff. His ships were equipped with weapons that could destroy planets and shields that could withstand the explosion of stars. What could one primitive human vessel possibly do against such overwhelming superiority? "Your threats are meaningless." "Mammal," Sask replied. "We are here to evaluate your defenses before the Council fleet arrives, to destroy your pathetic civilization. Surrender now and your death will be quick." Young-ho smiled and activated systems that had been completely invisible to alien sensors. His simple cargo ship suddenly transformed, revealing weapons platforms that pulsed with energy signatures no alien had ever seen before. Space around the Council scouts filled with defensive minds that existed partially outside normal reality, making them impossible to detect until they activated the alien vessels found. Their superior weapons completely useless against human technology that operated according to rules the Council had never imagined. Their energy beams passed harmlessly through human shields that existed in folded space. Their missiles disappeared into dimensional pockets that sent them back through time to explode harmlessly in empty space centuries ago. Dr. So-ra monitored the encounter from the Strategic Command Center hidden beneath Antarctica. Her quantum communication network allowed her to watch the battle in real time despite the vast distances involved. The aliens were fighting blind while humans could see everything happening across light years of space instantly. "All reconnaissance units report successful contact," she announced. To the Command Staff Council, scouts are experiencing what they classify as impossible phenomena. They are requesting immediate reinforcement from core worlds exactly as we predicted. The Council forces were learning that they had seriously underestimated their enemy. Every piece of human technology they had dismissed as primitive was actually carefully designed to appear less advanced than it really was. Every diplomatic surrender had been strategic patience. Every trade concession had been an investment. In future, Victory Captain Dong Min led a convoy of what appeared to be simple supply ships through space near the frontier. When a Council battle group intercepted them, the aliens expected easy prey but instead found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to exist in multiple places at the same time. His vessels phased in and out of normal space-time, appearing behind enemy formations, delivering devastating attacks, then vanishing before the aliens could respond. The Council ships found their advanced targeting systems completely useless against enemies that could move through dimensions they did not know existed. How is this possible? The alien fleet commander screamed as his sensors registered energy readings that violated everything his civilization understood about the universe. We learned from the best teachers in the galaxy, Dong Min replied as his ships emerged from spatial folds directly inside the enemy formation. We learned from you. Ambassador Jin Ho walked slowly into the massive alien chamber, his boots making soft sounds on the strange, glowing floor. The room was so big that his voice would echo for several seconds if he spoke too loudly. Above him, thousands of alien beings floated on platforms that moved through the air like magic. Each species looked different and terrifying in their own way. The crystal beings from Viridian Prime sparkled like living diamonds, their bodies reflecting light in patterns that hurt human eyes to watch. The gas creatures from the nebula reaches had no solid form at all, existing as swirling clouds of colored mist that spoke in voices like distant thunder. The insect lords of the hive worlds clicked and buzzed with sounds that made Jin Ho think of giant beetles crawling through metal pipes behind. Jin Ho walked his small team of humans. Su Bin carried her recording tablet close to her chest, typing quickly to send everything back to Earth through secret channels. The aliens knew nothing about General Ho Jin wore his dress uniform, but his eyes moved constantly, watching for threats. Trade Minister Dobbin looked calm, but her hands stayed near the emergency beacon on her belt. Supreme Chancellor Forth dominated the center of the chamber like a nightmare made real. His body looked like a giant crab that had been crossed with a spider and covered in crystal armor that glowed with its own inner light. His claws were longer than Jin Ho was tall, and when he moved, they scraped against the metal floor, making sounds like breaking glass. His compound eyes were the size of dinner plates, and they stared down at the humans with obvious disgust. The other council members whispered among themselves in languages that sounded like grinding metal, scraping stone, and electrical storms. The translation devices built into the chamber walls worked hard to convert their alien speech into words humans could understand, but some meanings were lost, making their conversations sound even more threatening. Forth raised one massive claw and the entire chamber fell silent. The sound was so sudden and complete that Jin Ho could hear his own heartbeat. Su Bin stopped typing and held her breath. General Ho Jin straightened his shoulders and Trade Minister Dobbin moved one step closer to her human colleagues. Your species has become a problem. Forth said, his voice booming through speakers that made the floor vibrate under their feet. You humans breed like insects and spread across space like a disease, consuming resources that belong to civilizations far superior to your primitive kind. The alien audience made sounds of agreement. Crystal beings chimed like wind instruments. Gas creatures rumbled like approaching storms. Insect lords clicked their approval in rhythms that sounded like ancient war drums. The message was clear. They all agreed that humans were nothing more than pests that needed to be controlled. We, the Galactic Council, have ruled this galaxy for over 10,000 years. Forth continued, his claws gesturing toward displays that showed star maps covering millions of worlds. When your pathetic species was still discovering fire, we had already built empires that spanned entire star clusters. Our technology surpasses yours by millennia. Our wisdom exceeds your understanding, and our patience with your expansion has reached its limit. Jin Ho remained perfectly still, but his mind was racing. He had expected this moment for years. Human intelligence, Services had been monitoring Council communications, and they knew this ultimatum was coming. The preparation had taken decades, but everything was finally ready. Therefore, Vorth announced, his voice rising to fill every corner of the massive chamber. The Terran Empire has exactly 72 standard hours to withdraw all military forces, colonies, and settlements from the Outer Rim territories. Your kind will retreat to your original solar system and remain there under Council supervision until we determine if you are capable of civilized behavior. The alien audience erupted in what passed for laughter among their various species. Crystal beings made sounds like breaking glass. Gas creatures produced rumbling noises that shook the air. Insect lords clicked and buzzed so loudly that the translation system struggled to keep up. The message was unmistakable. They found the idea of human resistance hilarious. Your primitive vessels are constructed from crude metals and powered by technology we discarded millions of years ago. Vorth said, his compound eyes gleaming with malicious pleasure. Your weapons cannot penetrate our shields, your computers cannot match our processing power, and your military strategies are as simple as those used by animals fighting over territory. Behind Jinho, Su-bin continued typing, but now her fingers moved in a special pattern that activated hidden protocols across human space. General Ho-jin shifted his weight slightly, a movement that looked casual, but was actually a signal to recording devices that began transmitting detailed scans of every alien in the chamber. Trade Minister Da-bin touched her emergency beacon, once a gesture that appeared nervous, but actually sent activation codes to sleeper agents throughout the galaxy. Should you refuse this generous offer to surrender peacefully, Vorth continued, the combined fleets of the Council will enforce our will through military action. We possess over 50,000 warships crewed by species that mastered warfare before your son was born. Our weapons can destroy entire planets. Our shields can withstand the explosion of stars, and our commanders have won battles across 1,000 different worlds. The threat hung in the air, like poison. Jinho felt the weight of billions of human lives depending on his next words. He thought about Earth with its blue oceans and white clouds. He remembered Mars with its growing cities, and Luna with its massive shipyards. He pictured the frontier colonies where human families were building new lives among distant stars. All of those people were counting on him to buy them time. Time for the secret weapons to activate. Time for the hidden fleets to move into position. Time for Operation Dragon Wake to begin. Jinho stood up slowly, his movement causing a ripple of attention through the alien audience. He straightened his diplomatic jacket, smoothed his hair, and looked directly into Supreme Chancellor Vorth's massive compound eyes. When he spoke, his voice was calm and clear, carrying easily through the vast chamber. I will deliver your message to my government, he said, choosing each word carefully. However, I feel it is my duty to remind the honored council that humanity has never responded well to threats. We have a saying on Earth that the nail which sticks up gets hammered down, but we also believe that some nails are made of stronger metal than the hammer trying to pound them. The aliens burst into even louder laughter, finding his primitive metaphor amusing. They had no idea that Jinho had just declared war in the most polite way possible. Su-bin finished her typing sequence and nodded slightly to indicate that all human forces had received their activation. Orders. General Ho-jin relaxed his shoulders, showing that military preparations were complete. Trade Minister Da-bin touched her beacon again, confirming that economic warfare protocols were now active, as the human delegation prepared to leave the chamber. None of the alien representatives noticed the small, satisfied smile playing at the corners of Jinho's lips. They were too busy congratulating themselves on their superior civilization to pay attention to details like human facial expressions. 72-hour countdown had begun, but the Council had made a critical error in their calculations. They had given humanity exactly what it needed most: time to stop pretending to be weak. Within 6 months, the Vex Empire was completely defeated, but not in any way that anyone expected. Humanity did not just destroy their military. They systematically dismantled their entire civilization using economic warfare, psychological operations, and technological superiority that made resistance completely impossible. The galaxy watched in fascination and terror as humans proved that 3 centuries of peaceful development had actually been preparation for the most efficient war machine ever created. Fleet Admiral Minho stood before the Galactic Council, as humanity claimed its place among the major powers, but with a crucial difference. They were not seeking conquest or expansion. They were establishing themselves as the species you absolutely did not want to cross. The message was crystal clear. Humans had chosen to be peaceful not because they were weak, but because they were so dangerous that peace was the only safe option for everyone else. The aftermath of the war became known throughout the galaxy as the Great Revelation, as every alien species began to understand the true scope of human capabilities. Every human art piece, every philosophical treaty, every peaceful gesture was now seen in a completely new light, as the actions of a species so confident in their destructive abilities that they could afford to be genuinely peaceful. Most of the time, Captain Wan Ho commanded the new human diplomatic fleet vessels that looked exactly like the old peaceful trade ships, but now carried the implicit threat of what humanity could do when someone made them angry. The galaxy power structure had fundamentally shifted overnight, and every alien civilization knew it. Humans were no longer the harmless philosophers. They were the sleeping giants who had chosen to stay asleep until someone was foolish enough to wake them up. The transformation of human society was remarkable to witness. Overnight, the pretense was dropped, and humanity revealed itself as the most advanced military civilization in galactic history. Every human colony became an obvious fortress. Every human ship showed its true capabilities. Every human citizen stopped hiding their combat training. Dr. Chanmi worked in facilities that had previously been disguised as research laboratories studying alien poetry, but were now revealed as weapons development centers that had been creating technologies beyond alien comprehension for centuries. The devices they had built could manipulate matter at the quantum level, reshape space-time itself, and create effects that seemed like magic to other species. Lieutenant Su Young operated communication systems that connected every human settlement across thousands of light years with instantaneous transmission. The network had been disguised as cultural exchange programs, but was actually the most sophisticated military command structure ever constructed, allowing humanity to coordinate actions across the entire galaxy in real time. The Vex survivors became a cautionary tale told throughout the stars about what happened when someone underestimated humanity. They thought humans were weak because they chose peace. They learned too late that the most dangerous predator is the one that chooses not to hunt. The few Vex who remained alive spent their time warning other species never to make the same mistake their empire had made. Captain Jiwoo led patrols through former Vex territory in ships that no longer bothered to hide their military nature. The human vessels moved through space like apex predators, marking their territory and making sure everyone understood the new rules. The galaxy had learned that humanity was not just another species. They were the species that all others measured themselves against. General Yubin established the new human military academies, where the pretense of civilian education was finally dropped. Human children who had been secretly trained as soldiers their entire lives could now openly study tactics, strategy, and weapons technology that made alien military science look primitive. The next generation of humans would be even more formidable than their parents. Dr. Hai Young published the first open studies of human military capabilities, and the documents terrified every alien scientist who read them. Humanity had been developing weapons and strategies for 3 centuries, while everyone else thought they were writing poetry. The technological gap between humans and other species was so vast that it could not be measured. The economic transformation was equally dramatic. Human trade ships that had carried art and literature now openly transported military hardware to allied species, while denying it to potential enemies. Humans offered protection services to smaller civilizations, who suddenly understood that being friends with humanity was the best insurance policy in the galaxy. Commander Dong Jin ran the new human intelligence services that were no longer required to operate in secret. The spy networks that had been gathering information for centuries could now work openly, because every alien government was eager to share intelligence with humanity rather than risk becoming their enemy. Captain Min Jung commanded the human exploration fleets that ventured into unknown regions of space, looking for potential threats to galactic stability. The ships carried enough firepower to handle anything they might encounter, and the crews were trained to make first contact with species who had never heard of humanity. The cultural impact was profound. Human art and literature suddenly took on new meanings when viewed through the lens of their true nature. Poems that had seemed to celebrate peace were revealed as tactical. Manuals, songs that praised beauty contained encoded military instructions. Paintings that showed pastoral scenes were actually maps of defensive positions. Lieutenant So-Jin worked with alien governments who were trying to understand how they had missed the signs for so long. Human diplomatic missions had been intelligence-gathering operations. Human trade deals had been military preparations. Human cultural exchanges had been reconnaissance missions. The scope of the deception was so vast that it redefined what was possible in galactic politics. Admiral Tae-hoon established the new galactic order, where humanity served as the ultimate peacekeepers. They did not rule other species directly, but everyone understood that major conflicts would not be tolerated. Human intervention in disputes was swift, decisive, and final. Most problems were resolved simply by asking what humanity would prefer. Dr. Young-gu studied the psychological effects of the revelation on alien populations. Many species experienced what became known as humanity shock, the sudden realization that they had been completely wrong about the most important species in the galaxy. Entire civilizations had to rebuild their understanding of galactic politics, military, strategy, and what it meant to be powerful. The new human colonies made no attempt to hide their military nature. Defensive installations were built in the open, training facilities operated without camouflage, and weapons platforms were displayed. Proudly, the message to the galaxy was clear. This is what we always were. We just chose not to show you. Captain Yun-ho flew the new generation of human warships that incorporated technologies previously kept secret. The vessels could travel between star systems in minutes, manipulate gravity itself, and carry enough firepower to reshape solar systems. They were works of art that happened to be the most deadly weapons ever created. The galaxy settled into its new reality where humanity had revealed itself as the apex species. Everyone understood the rules now. Humans preferred peace, but if you forced them to fight, you would face an enemy that had been preparing for war longer than most civilizations had existed. The sleeping giants were awake, and nothing would ever be the same. Fleet Admiral Soman looked out at the stars from her command ship, knowing that humanity had finally taken its rightful place in the galaxy. They had spent 3 centuries pretending to be weak while becoming the strongest. The deception was over, and the universe was a safer place because everyone now understood exactly what humans were capable of when someone gave them a reason to stop being nice.